I'm so excited to be joined with Aru Shiney-Ajay, who is the executive director of the Sunrise movement, an organization I have followed with a lot of awe for many, many years for their incredible grassroots organizing work around climate change, but other issues. Aru, you also live on the ground in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I grew up in Minneapolis. It's my home, and I live here right now.
So you have been on the front lines. Before we dig into obviously what you have been living through and experiencing and all the incredible organizing work you and your team and volunteers have been doing there, I think it would be great for our listeners to learn a little bit more about you and the Sunrise Movement as well before we zoom in on what's actually going on in the ground right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sunrise started in 2017. We started as a youth movement to stop the climate crisis. And we did some incredible work. We popularized the Green New Deal. We planned a lot of the climate strikes of 2019. And eventually we won the biggest ever piece of climate legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act. And that's still that's why I came to the movement. I really believe that we all deserve clean air and water and a livable future to look forward to.
What novel concepts?
And what novel concepts, really basic stuff. And last year, when Trump came back into office for the second time, we basically took an assessment of the strategic landscape and we were like, there is no serious way to stop the climate crisis under the level of authoritarianism that Trump is presenting right now, both because of his allegiance to oil and his desire to drag us back into the past, like an economy built on oil and coal, but also because of his absolute criminalization of protests, which is so core to movement building. And so we decided that we were going to temporarily broaden our focus to fighting authoritarianism and being able to end the authoritarian regime that I believe we are currently under, so that we could eventually go back to winning big pieces of federal climate legislation. So right now, all around the country, that's what our hubs are working on.
It's so important and it's so necessary and strategic because none of these issues are going to get any traction or progress. We're always going to be fighting on defense unless we can actually win the much larger war that we're in right now. And I mean, a little bit more on Sunrise, but because I will say how I came to learn about you guys and be excited about the work is that sometimes it would be controversial in the sense that it doesn't look like traditional lobbying or organizing. I would, compare it more to a lot of what we used to see Greenpeace do here, less here in this country lately, more abroad as they've done. But talk a little bit about your tactical strategies and approach at Sunrise.
Yeah, so we're a volunteer-run movement. We have hundreds of hubs all across the country, and we use a wide variety of tactics. But I think we're best known for some of our direct action tactics, where we went viral for doing a sit-in in Nancy Pelosi's office with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez back in 2019. So that was really
Okay, I think this was
notable.
like her first week as a congresswoman.
Yeah, something back then. We've shut down the White House calling for Joe Biden to pass climate legislation. So we really believe, and that's not the only thing we do. We engage in elections, we build, we run campaigns, but those are some of our most flashy, attention-grabbing things that serve to bring a lot of people into our movement and build long-term power. And so right now, we're bringing some of that into our campaigning against authoritarianism, and we're thinking about how do you actually use actions as ways to interfere in the ways that ICE and authoritarianism operate in the day-to-day. And we've specifically started looking at, we call it non-cooperation. Basically, our core understanding is that everyday people run the aspects of everyday life that authoritarians rely on to execute anything that they want to do. And that's things like we run the hotels that people sleep in, we run the rental car agencies that ICE rents cars from. And so the idea is, how can everyday people sort of interfere in those points of operation enough that we can actually make it impossible for ICE to operate and put them on defense.
This is why I was so excited to talk to you for Gloves Off. This is like the definition of Gloves Off, and why I wanted to start the show is to actually talk about what are things that real people in the world are doing. Yes, elected officials, but we know that their powers are incredibly limited. We know that elections matter, and yet this movement has to go far beyond elections for us to be able to win, given they're throwing out things like due process, rule of law, operating with incredible immunity right now, and that it's going to take a real movement a lot of us, and especially a lot of your colleagues and volunteers, haven't lived through real movement moments like this in their lifetime. And so it's just so important to kind of meet the moment. And I really think you guys are doing that. I heard you talk a little bit on another interview about a framework that you guys apply, which I think you were just sort of describing. But I really think like our audience and just millions of Americans right now are actively looking for ways that they can get involved in what they can do in such an incredible way that we are not used to seeing really in this country because of how severe things have gotten. So talk to me a little bit about the framework that you guys use, and then let's talk specifically about the actions that you guys have been deploying in the Twin Cities and how many wins you have seen.
Yeah, so our framework right now basically comes from the core understanding that we are living through what we're calling a competitive authoritarian regime, which is to say that it's a regime that still uses elections but is breaking so many laws, so many norms. And that means that the rules of democracy they're not always in play in the same way. So in a functioning democracy, the way you make change is kind of simple. You like convince the majority of people to be on your side, and then politicians start to support it, and then you can pass a piece of legislation. I think there are a lot of ways in which the US has not functioned like that for quite a while, actually, but that's the theory of a
Not
democracy.
in my adult life
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
yes, yeah. But that is the core theory of democracy
Sounds
and how
great.
you make change. Yeah, it sounds amazing. I would love to get to that. That sounds fantastic. In a competitive authoritarian regime, that stops being the case. That feedback loop of public opinion to outcome is really broken because, frankly, Trump doesn't care about public opinion. And also, there are increasing ways in which they are setting up an election to be, if not outright stolen, at the very least skewed in a wide variety of ways through gerrymandering, through purging voter rolls, um, many ways. That's not me saying we shouldn't win elections. I really believe we should try and win elections, but I think we need to look in a wide variety of tactics to be able to contend for power. So we start to look at a framework called the Pillars of Support, which is basically looking at what are all the different sectors and ways in which authoritarian regimes rely on everyday people to be able to operate. And you can like break it down within that. So like one pillar might be the media, another pillar might be like businesses, another pillar and then within businesses we've started doing this specifically for how ICE operates in Minneapolis. So within businesses, we're like, okay, hotels because they need to sleep somewhere, rental car agencies because that's how they get their cars, restaurants because that's where they get their food, but also food delivery drivers potentially because sometimes they're ordering food. There's like many ways. We've also been like roads, like they drive around on roads. So once you start to like list literally in the most logistical way what is everything that ICE needs to operate? What is everything that nationally this administration needs to operate? Then you start to see a lot of little cracks in where you can interfere. So you're like, okay, they need hotels. What power do ordinary people have over hotels? Well, ordinary people are hotel workers. A lot of like hotel managers sympathize with what we're seeing. So there's sort of the like labor aspect of it, but also everyday people book hotels. Hotels, offer things like a quiet place to sleep at night. Like, I'm like, what are ways that you can start to interfere in that? So in Sunrise, Twin Cities, we've been doing nonviolent, peaceful demonstrations in the middle of the night, where we like make a lot of noise and wake up people in hotels where we have confirmed ICE agents staying. And that's been really successful. We've actually had multiple hotels kick ICE out because of that. We've had other reports of hotels off the radar telling us like we've refused ICE because we don't want a noise protest at our hotel. So that's been specifically effective. And we've used other tactics as well. We've been calling into the hotels. We've like made reservations that we cancel last minute to sort of like both not let ICE be able to book, but also like show the hotel the financial cost of booking ICE. We've been exploring something next week. There's a liquor license gearing for a few of the hotels that are housing ICE. So we are we're doing like a little 1 week campaign to revoke the liquor licenses of hotels housing ICE because we're like, these armed agents are shooting people even without having access to liquor. Like,
Or they are, who knows?
yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, there's like a lot of different avenues and that's just from like zeroing in on hotels. And the thing that I like about this framework is that, we like bring this to high schoolers and train them on it. We bring like it's not complicated. It's actually very intuitive, and it's something you can just like pass out and let anyone sort of figure out what are the buttons that I can push that get in the way of what's happening. It's just organizing.
It's so amazing. It's so I mean, it's not rocket science. It sounds so simple and obvious, but the thing I hear more than anything else from people in my own life, people who follow and subscribe to our career products, is what can I do? I don't want to give to a Democrat anymore. Like, right, where it's like their only tool used to be voting and donating to candidates or organizations they believed in. And this helplessness is one of the most dangerous kind of outcomes of an authoritarian takeover regime. And the fact that you guys are doing things in really with intention to making this very easy for anyone who wants to get involved to participate in at a local level, I think is so powerful, so urgent, so necessary. And so I would love to know, how can people get involved, but also this is going to inspire them, right, to start thinking about how can they throw sand in the gears in their own communities and organize their own. I'm sure that's something you guys promote as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we love people joining Sunrise. Like it's smvmt.org/join. I can't get on anything without at least saying that once. So join the Sunrise movement, join a hub near you. But also if like for whatever reason that's like not exact, maybe there isn't a hub near you, literally just get together with 3 of your friends and think about applying that framework or literally using any of those tactics. You could like host a little hotel reservation booking party, book up a hotel with 10 friends, and then cancel it last minute and set yourself Google Calendar reminders. That's like one thing. Or if you want to get a little bit more creative, like you can think about what the equivalent of that is for ICE in your city. It's really just like a framework thing. And different people have access to different like parts of how society enables authoritarianism. Like if you work in the media, there's like maybe something you can organize a campaign within the media about that. If you are a teacher, like there's like things about organizing schools to refuse ICE into your school. Like there's like always, so many of us have so much more access to power than we realize. If you work in the food service, like is your restaurant a Fourth Amendment workplace where you won't allow ICE in it? Like there's so much that we forget that we have access to power over. And that's like somewhat deliberate. We're sort of told that we have no power, but actually we make society run, and how are ways that we can refuse to let it run in this way.
It's so well put, because we forget that we have power, which isn't by design. And, we say all the time, courage is contagious, and it is. And I think that it's very difficult to have courage when you don't feel any sense of agency or possibility. And these actions can really make people feel that. Is that what you guys have been experiencing in the Twin Cities?
Absolutely. I mean, we've just seen this like influx of people joining our local hub, joining our national movement, and a lot of people see it as it's really hard to be in the Twin Cities right now. Like you drive down the street and you like see ICE agents, you see patrols, you get stories of your friends getting stopped.
It's chilling. I just got the bad kind of goosebumps when you said that. It's absolutely chilling.
Yeah, it's terrible. I think for a lot of people, joining a group, an organized group with a strategy, is actually like one of the few things that can make you feel better in this moment, which I think is like important to tell people. Organizing, to me, I do it because I want to change the world, but it also brings me so much joy, happiness, and purpose that I don't know that I could find in any other place. So if you're feeling like lost or scared, I really truly believe that organizing is an answer to being able to face down fascism with courage and hope.
And joy. There's joy in it. And I couldn't agree more. And I think that, it's also important to tell people, no matter how old they are or what they thought about organizing or activism before, it's never too late to become an organizer and activist.
Never.
You don't have to wear the label. It's really just being a member of your community at this stage.
And that's the remarkable thing about Minneapolis right now. I mean, I keep telling stories about this, but we are at a point where I think 5% of every single neighborhood is in a signal chat thinking about patrolling, which is incredible density. Like at any given moment, the bigger neighborhoods have like 1,000 people out patrolling at any moment per neighborhood. It's just like a incredible density of, we can call them organizers or activists, but at the end of the day, it's just like people who care about what's going on, because these are our neighbors and our friends, and this is our home that's getting tear gas block by block, and we want to do something about it. So if you don't identify with the label of an activist. Like, you don't have to. This is really just about getting out there and protecting our homes and protecting our people.
You and your organization and just the people of the Twin Cities have demonstrated that to the whole country, that you can fight, and it's been wildly inspiring. And also, have put together the playbook, really, that we know that we are in a moment of momentum right now because the pressure is on, and we have to keep the pressure on in all of the ways. I want to hear you speak to that a little bit. But we also know that this isn't going to end with Minneapolis,
No.
St. Paul. And so I would also love to hear where you guys are thinking of focusing next, but also, what advice you would give to small networks of people, individuals who are going to experience something similar to what you guys unfortunately have been in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things I'd say. One, I'd say like there are so many roles that we need in this moment that no matter who you are or what you are interested in, we need help. Like in Minneapolis or in your city, I think one of the most remarkable things about the response in Minneapolis has just been how well we have covered various parts of the infrastructure needed. We have like organized school patrols at morning and like pick up at drop off and pick up times that make sure that kids are safe. That's run by a lot of like parents and teachers, and that's really powerful. And we have grocery drop offs for undocumented people or people who are just brown who like cannot feel like they're afraid to go outside, so people are dropping off groceries to them. And then we have like these giant patrol groups, and then we have what we're doing, which is more like offensive campaigns that is designed not just to slow down the arrest but to actually drive out ICE out. And the fact that that ecology gets to exist together, I think, is really powerful and really beautiful, and also means there is a place for everyone in the organizing that you want to do, or however you want to help. So that's the first thing I'd say is I'm like, there's always a path in. And you're absolutely right. Like, this didn't start with Minneapolis. It certainly isn't going to end with Minneapolis. I do think that Minneapolis could be a turning point, not just in ICE, but in Trump's regime in general. I think that because I think for the last year or so, we've been bombarded with crisis after crisis, and it has rarely felt like ordinary people have the power to turn the tide, even when they don't feel good about what's going on. And I think this is perhaps the first example that we've seen in the last year or so of being able to like start to see a defeat. And I've seen a lot of signs of that. Like, I mean, Gregory Bovino, like, leaving, I think, is a good sign.
I will take that demotion until he's behind bars.
Yeah,
I really want to see, but I'll take the demotion as a starting.
Totally. And I think to me, the demotion is less, I like whatever about the demotion, but it's more like, okay, you have to understand Trump's psychology here. He's demoting Gregory Bovino because he realizes that he needs to save face right now. And this is what he does.
They know they are under fire. Yes.
Exactly. Like the Republican candidate for governor in Minnesota decided to drop out of the race because he can't stand with his party. That's remarkable. So yeah, I think just to say,
we're seeing the NRA demand an investigation.
Exactly, the NRA.
This has transcended all. This was the overreach that we were waiting for, that couldn't believe wasn't coming with all of the other incredible abuses of power, but it does feel like that is happening now.
Yeah, which I think is remarkable, and I think that means, one, it's time to start getting organized. Like, I was looking back at our planning documents from October and November, and we had basically brainstormed red lines that we were like, if any of these things happen locally, we are going to jump into rapid response mode. And one of the red lines that we brainstormed was ICE kills somebody in Minneapolis, and it happened. Like, that's like strategizing that happened beforehand. I'm like, get together with your friends, pick a pillar of support that you want to move. Think about like the red lines that the administration might do in your city that would enable you to jump into rapid response mode. Like, this is exactly what we did, right? It's like, it's planning, it's strategizing, it's also basic. Like, it's not rocket science. It's anything anyone can do, but it's just about getting the tools out there so people feel enabled to do them.
Yeah, and feeling more confident with them. So it wouldn't be gloves off if I didn't ask you, where do you source your courage to be able to do this kind of work? Because I think it is scary to a lot of people to put themselves out there in this way. And I'm curious, where does that come from for you?
I think it's just from everybody else, which is maybe a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I think it's really, really beautiful that when Renee Good and Alex Priddy were killed, the reaction of 20,000 people across the Twin Cities was to go and do the same thing that they were being killed for doing, like recording and filming what was happening. I think last night 200,000 people got on a Zoom call to learn how to do the same thing. Like, that is courage to me, and it's courage that's like very everyday and very basic, because we like believe in protecting basic rights of our neighbors and of each other and of ourselves. So that's what I'd say above all. Like, the courage that other people say have reminds me to be courageous, and I think it kind of just gets passed around.
I think that's beautiful. Is there anything else that folks should know about Sunrise Movement and the work you guys are doing now and moving forward?
I think I'll say that, it's a time, this time is very dark in a lot of ways, but at the core, we're called Sunrise because we are like a hopeful movement. And I believe that we're not just fighting against the bad, but for a better world for all of us. I think that we could turn this into kicking Trump out of power and then being able to actually like win reforms to our political system that enable us to have a system that's like doesn't work for billions and works for everyday people, where we can actually pass legislation that most people want. Because at the end of the day, I believe that like a lot of people want some common sense things like clean air and clean water and healthcare and a livable wage. And we've just been put in the situation where our broken political system denies us things that the majority of Americans are actually united on. So I'm here for the day where we can actually win big.
Amen. And I hate that it came to this, but I kind of believe that it probably needed to, because the iterative change and the band-aids were not working with the system that
They weren't working, and it's really important that we take this moment and we use it to win for all of us.
Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and your team is doing, Aru. It's deeply inspiring, and thanks for joining.
Thank you so much.
These conversations and the courage of these leaders are only as contagious as the audiences we reach. So if you felt inspired by this conversation and episode, please consider sharing it on your own social platforms and with your friends and networks. If you don't already, please follow Courier Newsroom wherever you follow news and information, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube so you can be the first to know when our next conversation drops. So excited to be in this fight with all of you. And until next time, please take care of yourselves. We need you.